Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs?
What's up?
My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. Last show of the week before we get into week 5 in bulk.
Oh, dude, week 5, bro? Oh my gosh.
I was
Isn't
thinking
that
about
crazy?
it. A quarter of the season's over. A quarter of the season is over.
Yeah.
It feels like 5 weeks ago. Well, it was 5 weeks ago. I was sitting here waiting for the season to start, and now 5 weeks in, I don't know how to feel.
Just enjoy it, man.
Yeah,
That's all you can do.
I'm trying to, but the more I enjoy it, the faster it goes.
True.
So I'm trying to look forward to other things to slow down the time. I guess.
Like?
Basketball.
Okay.
Play a lot of Madden. Do a Madden
There you
franchise
go.
draft in a couple of weeks.
Still football, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, football.
Bro, the NHL starts.
That for you.
Next week.
That's you.
Yeah, that's a me thing, but for sure.
You love hockey. Anyway, and nothing to look forward to with baseball.
No.
Nope.
Unless you're a Yankees fan, maybe.
I guess. But today we are going to give you our week 5 trade targets, our week 5 buys and sells, and go through some guys that you should target in trades and some guys that you should send away in trades, and try to see what you can get for them before, crap hits the fan and that player's not good anymore. Before we do, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below any questions you may have. Today we are going to jump into those buys and sells. I will not spiral today.
Or at least try.
Yeah. Yesterday I spiraled out of control.
It's okay. When you're thinking about your own fantasy team 24/7, that's
I'm
what
just
happens.
not. I'm not gonna lie. I said this to you earlier, Rick. I've never drafted a team. Like, I never really like my team when I draft because I know it's not the finished product.
Right.
But this year I drafted a team, and I've never felt worse about a team in fantasy football than this team I have now. And I'm 2-2. There's a good chance I go 3-2 this week, according to Rick.
I think it's over 60%.
Like, I'm not the worst team in the league, but I feel zero confidence in anything on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm not happy with it. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get it together, but no one wants to trade with me. So it is what it is.
Gotta keep trying.
So, hey, it's a good, buys and sells. It is a good time. If you're in my position, Rick, and you need to make trades and things aren't really going your way, how do you like to approach that?
Are you asking for advice right now?
I could be.
What are you saying? Like, how would you approach not being able to get trades done with people?
Or how would you
Is that what you're
approach
trying to say?
fixing your team, just in general?
Man, I would definitely keep trying to make trades,
Okay.
without a doubt.
I shouldn't
Target
collapse.
guys that you want in trades. Go to, look at players that you want,
Mhm.
figure out what teams are on,
Yeah.
and then try your best to get deals done with those teams. The best thing you can do, though, I think, is not overreact too much. Don't trade McCaffrey for Rashad Bateman and Breece Hall.
That was awful.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. But definitely look to make deals for sure. That's got to be your first thing.
And that's the whole point of this particular show, is to help you with that. But I think it's more, the panic button is really when things aren't going well, it's really easy to hit the panic button and start selling. And usually, like, I have an emotional reaction when I lose in fantasy football, and then once that's over, Rick currently, what are you 1-3 in the home league?
Unfortunately,
You said you were going to trade everybody after the 1:00 game, so and then you backed off. So that's good. You didn't make it.
I only backed off because you convinced me otherwise. I was gonna do it.
Yes, but so yeah, there's just not like sometimes the situation isn't as bad as you think it is, and losing sucks. But you have to figure out. Like I try to like on a week by week basis. You're not gonna fix the team all at once. You can't make 4 trades in the same. I've tried. Trust me. I have a grandmaster plan, and the master plan fails basically every time. But it's like you're not going to fix your whole fantasy team in 1 week. So what I try to like trade deadlines usually have week 10, 11 for most people.
Yeah, in that range.
You have 6 or 7 weeks to fix your team using trades, right? So it's like I typically like to take each week, evaluate my roster after Monday's game, figure out where the state of my roster is and what position I need to upgrade, and then try to upgrade that position. And try to make trades. Because if you focus on one particular goal and one particular position, it's way easier to make a trade for one particular position than trying to do it all at once. Because if you try to do it all at once, you either blow up your team by trading Christian McCaffrey for Rashad Bateman and Breece Hall, or you'll start doing things that because sometimes like right now I look at my team and there's 4 guys on it that I feel like on any given week could score 40 points and win me the week. I had TJ Hawkinson this week, 40 points, and I lost. That's what enrages me.
That is actually like, if you think about that, that's crazy because your tight end outscored his tight end by like 30 fantasy points.
Nope.
And you still lost.
And his quarterback only outscored my quarterback by 5. It was the fact that the defense had 25.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. That's tough to overcome.
So, yes.
The defense gets 25 fantasy points.
Set a goal for yourself. Try to make the trades and see if you can make things happen. And don't be a sleaze ball and try to fleece people. But anyway, we're going to give you some buys, guys that you should target, some sells, some guys that you should give away, not for free. Not for free. So let's get into buys and sells.
Okay, let's do it.
Number 1, this is actually a really good buy and sell, and I realized it more as I was talking to Rick about it because Rick it was sounding like he kind of liked Alvin Kamara a little more than Dalvin Cook in fantasy football, and it kind of confirmed to me that Dalvin Cook is a buy. Right now, rest of the season, I would probably rank Dalvin Cook somewhere in the 7 to 9 range. And I would rank Alvin Kamara somewhere in the 13 to 14 range. And I feel like a lot of people are in the same sentiment, and Rick can explain his thoughts on Alvin Kamara if he feels like it. But I feel like Dalvin Cook, a lot of people in the fantasy community and a lot of people in just regular Joe Schmo fantasy leagues are down on Dalvin Cook. They don't like Dalvin Cook. He hasn't, like last year I had him all season. He had some really good games, and then he had some weeks where he just wasn't great. He had some injured weeks. So he hasn't performed like the the top 5 running back that people have wanted him to perform as for the last year and a half, really. And so when you look at Dalvin Cook not performing at that level, there is a lot of concern for a lot of the fantasy community with Dalvin Cook and how he's performed. But I feel like that is the perfect reason to buy him because right now, I mean, he's always had above a 60% snap percentage. They're not going to give Dalvin, they're not going to give Alexander Madison a plurality of the work. And Dalvin is a little bit on the older side, but I feel like they still want to get him the ball. His biggest, he's getting about 20 to 25 touches a game. His biggest problem is just that he hasn't punched into the end zone. This week against New Orleans, one of the toughest run defenses, he has 10 fantasy points. Alexander Madison just happened to steal a touchdown away from him. Had he scored that touchdown, you're talking about a 17, 18 fantasy point week, and, people are feeling much better about Dalvin Cook. But he's also had Green Bay, New Orleans, who are better run defenses. And he's had a terrible game against Philly where they were getting blown out and couldn't run the ball anymore. So I think as the season goes along, you'll see Dalvin Cook start to ascend into a much better role for this Vikings team, and they'll get him the ball more. It's clear they target him a lot, and as soon as he starts scoring touchdowns again, you're going to see Dalvin Cook really take a step forward and be that top 6, 7, 8 running back in fantasy football that I think we all want.
Yeah, I hope so. I do think he's a good buy, though. There are some people who are really down on him in the fantasy community. I know some people that don't think he's a top 12 running back anymore rest of the season, which I do disagree with, because he is getting a lot of opportunity. He's not getting a ton of pass catching work, but he's getting enough to go with, looks like, 17 to 20 carries a game just about, which is really good. And, he did have a little tough stretch there. He had one good matchup out of the first 4 weeks, and that was his best game. And he fumbled in that game. So if he didn't fumble, he would have had a pretty decent week. But his rest of the season schedule looks really easy, which is really intriguing to me. And then, as you said, the touchdowns, which I think will come, especially depending on who they play, which, as I said before, pretty good matchup. So the touchdowns will come, and once they do, he's looking at like 16 points a week, and at that point, he's easily a top 10 running back. So Dalvin Cook's a fantastic buy, and you did bring up Kamara. I do think he's a good buy as well, but Dalvin Cook was higher on this list.
Yep. All right, let's talk about our second buy, George Pickens.
Yep.
We did put him on our sit show, so if you do buy him this week and you're all hot and bothered that you bought him, you probably shouldn't start.
You could even wait a week.
You might even be able to
play
wait
Tampa.
A week. Yeah,
next week.
But George Pickens, he's. I didn't anticipate talking about George Pickens this year, because I did believe in his talent. I mean, the guy had an elite preseason, if you want to say that you can have an elite preseason.
Training camp hype videos.
Yes, training camp hype. Everything was hyping George Pickens into a point where he got drafted, I would say, really too high. But he has shown signs of being a very, 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 very good wide receiver. And there's a trend heading in a direction for George Pickens where, like, at the beginning of the season, I felt like George Pickens was going to be the number 3 wide receiver, and he wasn't going to be able to usurp Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson for the 1 or the 2 spot on this team, and he was going to be. And even with Pat Freiermuth, I felt as though he would probably be the 4th target in the offense. And over the last couple weeks, things have started to shift, and with Kenny Pickett coming in and other things going on, George Pickens has had an increased load of work. Week 1 and 2, he had 3 targets and 2 targets. Against Cleveland, he had 7. Against the Jets, he had 8. So he has been slowly climbing and improving his target share on a week-to-week basis. His snap percentage has kind of stayed the same, hovered around 75% on the season. But I think this is a good buy, because I think as the season goes along, you're going to see Pickens get more and more work, more and more snap percentage, and he's going to take Chase Claypool. Or right now it might be even, but by the time you get to the bye week, it's probably going to be George Pickens as a number 2 target in the offense. And it might even happen sooner than that. So you want George Pickens when that happens, because if this guy's getting 8, 9 targets a game, or even 10 targets a game if that starts happening, he literally becomes probably one of the best fantasy wide receivers out there. You know what I mean? Top 24 guy. Like, I could see him having a Terry McLaurin-like rookie season where, he ascended into like a wide receiver 15 or 16 his rookie year, or wide receiver 20 maybe.
In that range.
But like, I could see him having a season like that, and to get a wide receiver who finishes in the top 20 in fantasy football, really valuable for your flex, really valuable for your wide receiver 2 slots. And there's also a chance that maybe if Kenny Pickett's decent, that Pickens can ascend into a top 12 capacity, not on the season, but pacing out to certain numbers like that by the time he reaches. He could have a stretch of games similar to what Amon-Ra St. Brown did last year for the Detroit
Brandon
Lions.
Ayuk, his rookie year, Elijah Moore.
Yep. So
that kind of stretch, yeah.
I feel good about George Pickens, and I think he's a good buy, and it shouldn't cost you a lot to get him.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing with Pickens. I think he's probably the best cheap option that we have right now, where you could probably right now in most casual leagues get him for a low-end bench player, like just someone who's barely rostered. I know, he's available in some leagues as well in the waiver wire, so if he's available, absolutely pick him up. But if not, it's not going to take a lot to go get him. I would absolutely go trade for him. Don't start him. Keep him on your bench for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, the first couple weeks, he was that third or fourth option. But with Kenny Pickett in there, they do seem to have a very good connection. I think Pickett's favorite guy seems to be Pickens, at least in one game. I think Deontay and Pickens will go back and forth, but they, like I said, they seem to have a connection, and it feels like Claypool is now going to be the odd man out. Who had 2 targets and 0 receptions this week.
Droppable.
Oh yeah, in redraft, 100%.
I'm getting screwed in Dynasty over here.
In Dynasty, hold on to him, but redraft, he should be droppable for sure. The only things that concern me with Pickens is that schedule coming up is real rough. But maybe after the bye, I think you could look at him and he could have a big breakout type stretch, like you were saying, that Elijah Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Amon-Ra type stretch after the bye. And I would want to get him now in case it happens earlier. Get him on your team, put him on your bench. He clearly has the talent. He's got the connection with Pickett. It's really just a matter of time for me before he goes on a little stretch.
Okay. Agreed. Number 3, J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore Ravens running back.
Yes, sir. Flying high a little bit, but that's okay.
It took a little while to get to this point for J.K. Dobbins. We called him a breakout last year, popped his leg in half. I don't even know. I can't remember what the injury was, but he got hurt in the preseason last year. Torn ACL. Got hurt in the preseason last year, missed the entirety of the season, and then comes in this year and then gets hurt again. And he just has missed so much time. And finally, he gets on the field, and it's kind of sad because it's been so long that I didn't even really I watched Baltimore's game, and I didn't even he's played 2 games already.
Yeah,
and I'm I wasn't even paying attention. I wasn't even excited about Dobbins. Last year I was so lit to watch Dobbins play, and now I'm okay. But no, I projected him in the preseason. To get a lot of opportunities in this offense. There was one constant that didn't change that no one was really considering, and it was the fact that there's just no one else there to run the football. The opportunity share was going to be high, and if J.K. Dobbins was even slightly efficient, he was going to have a really, really, really decent season. And I feel like that's why I was high on him to draft him, and then Rick talked me down a little bit. And
you just had him very high.
Yeah, right. I had him very high.
I didn't hate Dobbins. I took him in a league. I just was he's going to miss probably the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
Have some patience.
But he had, quite legitimately, he had 17 carries last week on 50%. He had 17 touches last week on 50% of the snaps and scored 2 touchdowns. He hasn't even gotten the full job yet.
Right.
Justice Hill just went out with a hamstring injury, and now it's J.K. Dobbins' backfield fully. So they have to give him 65 to 70% of the work, and when that happens, I think it's going to be a big thing for J.K. Dobbins. I think this is a guy right now, before he's already had a big week, but before he starts really ascending, you want to get him now. So I would go out, I would offer whatever it takes to get J.K. Dobbins and get him on your team. For some people, it's going to be, because if I was a J.K. Dobbins owner, I would probably hold. But it's going to be I don't think it's going to be super easy to get him, but I would get him now before you really, really can't.
No, I mean he was what, like a fifth round pick?
Yeah, something like that. Fourth or fifth.
He was fourth in our league,
Mm,
but I think most leagues he was a fifth.
yeah.
Um, I would be willing to trade a lot of guys in that range for J.K. Dobbins, especially if you need a running back.
Mm.
Um, he should be right now at about like late third round, mid third round value, I think. I don't know if you disagree with that.
Um.
That's pretty much like a mid range
Yeah.
RB2.
Yeah. 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 I agree.
Like what you drafted Zeke, what you wanted Zeke to be, is I think what J.K. Dobbins is going to be. So
Yikes.
go buy J.K. Dobbins. He's a very good player in an offense that is elite. And yeah, he's been slow to start, but he's recovering from that injury. They've been going easy on his workload. But this week, starting this week, as you said, Justice Hill injured, probably not going to play. I think Dobbins' snap percentage, it went from 43 to 50. You might see it near 70 this week. And
Yeah.
I would expect another really good week, and it might be too late to trade for him after that.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the sells for the show. And some guys we're looking to get rid of. Number one on this list is James Robinson. I think he's been on this list a few times.
People are just going to say we're James Robinson haters.
We're just James Robinson haters. Now, I don't think James Robinson's a bad running back, but there was some specific numbers that I saw from, I think it's Derek Brown at Fantasy Pros. And I'm trying to bring those numbers up right now just so we can have them. There we go. So he writes, essentially Derek Brown writes articles for Fantasy Pros. I wanted to credit him for this because I didn't find this information on my own. But he essentially, agrees with the sentiment that we should go trade for Travis Etienne. And his opinion of this was that the backfield usage could flip very quickly for Travis Etienne. And he essentially says the efficiency metrics are a big red flag for James Robinson. Week 1, he had 4.18 at yards after contact, really good. 2.96 after that, 2.71 after that, and 2.25 last week. So he's had a decrease in snap percentages on the week. He's also had a decrease in efficiency metrics. So when I look at a guy like James Robinson, they're still giving them they're still giving him the ball. They're still giving him the opportunity, and he's had some of that opportunity. He's still having good weeks. So this is a perfect opportunity to take those good weeks and say, okay, this guy's been good. You need to trade for him. I personally believe at some point this year, the backfield is going to flip to Travis Etienne. He's just too talented, and he's probably, I keep saying this, Kirk has been good. Zay Jones has been good. Some of these, Evan Ingram has even been decent. But I think the best offensive weapon for the Jacksonville Jaguars is sitting in the backfield, and it's Travis Etienne, at least the most talented in terms of the skill position. So I feel like they are going to have to at some point start getting him the ball if they want to win football games. And when that happens, James Robinson is going to take a back seat, and people are going to go through their, victory laps right now for James Robinson, because the Robinson people are very strong. They're truthers. Literally on this tweet, I was scrolling through comments telling this guy he was a complete moron because of this opinion. So we'll probably get roasted if you made it this far into the video in the comments for saying this, but I think James Robinson is a good NFL running back. I think Travis Etienne is better. I think Travis Etienne is more talented.
He definitely has more upside and more talent, I think.
Yes.
As a pure athlete, like if you watch them, Robinson is the more like stable back, and he has good vision. Consistent. But Etienne is definitely a lot more explosive and has more raw talent.
Mm-hmm.
I also, to kind of piggyback off that stat, I saw a tweet earlier today. And he said James Robinson has gained more than 3 yards on just 42.4% of his carries, which is dead last in the NFL. And Travis Etienne is at 58.8%, which isn't elite by any means, but it's much, much better than James Robinson. And his efficiency has gone down, as you said. It's been a little bit concerning. Yet people still view him. I mean, if you go to Fantasy Pros the rest of the season rankings, he's RB14. This week he's getting ranked as the RB10. Now it is a great matchup against Houston, so he very well could have another very strong week. But to me, I think it's a good time to get rid of him, and you can get low end RB1 value for him.
I wish I had him.
We do in one league that we're in together.
And we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah. So I think it's a great time to get rid of him. Still could be a good player, low end RB2, but the value right now is very high, and I don't think it's going to stay there.
And I think too with Jacksonville, I think it's very much. We've seen this with Doug Peterson in the past. We've seen when he was coaching the Eagles and he had Miles Sanders and other guys. He had this affinity for weird running backs that weren't really good. And not that James Robinson's not good. That's a harsh sentiment. But running backs that are not as talented as the guy that is currently there, right? Remember Jordan Howard? What are you doing? Give the ball to Miles Sanders.
The RBBC, though.
So, but he had this, and at some point I think it was Miles Sanders' rookie season, there was a flip. There was a flip to the more talented guy. And so I think it's just Travis Etienne having to earn the respect of the coaching staff to earn his role on the team. And I think for James Robinson, it's a situation where he's getting the work now, but as soon as he becomes inefficient, Doug Peterson will flip fast. He's not one of those guys that's stubborn and just sticks with one guy, whether he sucks or not, right?
Yep.
Like Pittsburgh does with Najee Harris. Not that Najee sucks, but they've been inefficient running the ball, and they don't try to give it to anyone else. They just shove it right down Najee's throat. So it's he'll switch if it's not efficient, and what we're starting to see is that Robinson is showing that. I think they do like ETN, and I think ETN will start taking that over. So this is a pro ETN, anti James Robinson take.
Of course.
But we don't dislike James Robinson. I do want to clarify that. If this is a 50-50 split all season, I think both of them have fantasy relevance.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably starting James Robinson this week in our league. So.
But I mean, Jacksonville has shown some signs of being really good. And if they turn into, a much, much better, a top 12 to 15 offense in the NFL this year, I mean, doesn't that benefit both James Robinson and Travis Etienne?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make Travis Etienne at least a decent, people are off the train. They literally 2 weeks ago, he had 10 points and he had 16 touches, and everyone was like, okay, here we go. It's starting to saddle up. This week, he literally split opportunities in a negative game script with James Robinson. I think he had one more opportunity than James Robinson did, and everyone's like, he get 3 points, and everyone's like, all right, droppable. See you later. Travis Etienne, done. And it's like, wait a minute. A week ago, we were talking about how Etienne was about to take over.
Yeah, he's definitely not.
Oh, geez.
He's definitely not droppable for sure.
No, I would not.
He should be. I wouldn't be starting Etienne, but come on.
All right. So let's talk about our number 2 sell, Antonio Gibson. And Rick, I'm gonna let you take the floor with the breaking news we got before the show.
Oh, well, with that, I mean, it's not necessarily breaking news, but there was a
news.
report that said Brian Robinson had in practice on Thursday, because we recorded the show on Thursday, that he had a big run, and Ron Rivera was tapping him on the shoulder and fist bumping him.
Yeah.
And what was the quote? I wish I had, but I think it was something like, "This guy's gonna be special" or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's the real deal. So you see that and you're like, oh. And even without Brian Robinson, Gibson has been going downhill. He was our start of the week 1, and it worked out great, 20 fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, he has not been good. He's not been efficient either. 12 fantasy points, 11 fantasy points, 9 fantasy points. It's gone down each week. His snap percentage, 54% to 44% to 41%, going down each week. Efficiency technically hasn't been going down this week, but none of it has been good. 2 yards per carry, 3.1 and 3.7. He on the season, Antonio Gibson is rushing for 3.26 yards per carry, which is not good whatsoever. So even though the fantasy points are still not awful, it's going so downhill. And now he's going to split the backfield with not only J.D. McKissick, but Brian Robinson. I mean, without Brian Robinson there, his snap percentage is still below 50. I wouldn't be shocked if Gibson ends up getting like 10 to 11 touches this week with Robinson coming back. And at that point, he's not startable whatsoever. He is not only a sit this week, but I would be trying to get rid of him as fast as I can.
Yeah. This is tough. It's tough. It's clear something was changing. I do think that I'm still on the last one. I think that Antonio Gibson is a good player. Like I still believe that. And he'll have a role in this offense. It's not like they're just going to completely throw Antonio Gibson in the garbage can and say, see you later. But if you don't remember, this guy was a wide receiver out of college.
Right.
And I am going to go out on a limb and say that they want to give him a significant pass catching like opportunity load as a receiver and get him out in space and try to see if they can use him that way. I don't know if that's relevant for fantasy football. Like, I don't know, like, what if it's like 5 targets a game or 4 targets a game and that's what it ends up being?
Right.
Then he's completely dead. So, like, to me, he was risky. And there was, like, when all these reports came out, he was one of our favorite players early in the offseason as time went along.
Early in the offseason, yeah.
As time went along and we got to August, June, July, and August, and things started to shift, we just couldn't hold on to the take of Antonio Gibson. We had to switch. And he was one of the guys that we pegged as, somebody that we didn't want to draft anymore because of the situations that were happening. Now, he almost became a value in drafts, but with Gibson, it's just like early in the season, we were like, okay, you give it a run. He's decent for the early season. He's been okay. But now Brian Robinson is back, and it's clear that regardless of the super hype takey crap that you see on Sleeper where, randos are saying that, Brian Robinson runs up the middle and they're like, wow, this guy looks good. And like, they're getting all sweaty. Like, I think that that's a little bit hyperbolic because people want Brian Robinson to have success, but I just think that they like him and I think they want to get him the work. He's consistent. He's kind of like a rookie version of James Robinson for them, where you have this like pass catching running back in Antonio Gibson that has shown signs of being really good in his NFL career, but then they want to go with the plotter, the guy that is not going to fumble or get hurt or do anything like that and who's going to be fine. So I think that's why they would go with Brian Robinson, because consistency and he'll show more, and we'll see if he's good. I mean, if Brian Robinson comes out and he has, a breakout like Breece Hall or Dameon Pierce over here, then we were all wrong and Brian Robinson deserves to be an RB1. But as far as rookies are concerned, but I do look at Antonio Gibson. It's like, this is your opportunity to trade him before that happens. Right?
Yeah, and I don't think Brian Robinson's getting, he's not walking in and getting 20 carries. I don't think his first game back. The problem is though that he's just going to be another cog in that backfield, where things are already going downhill. So like, even if Brian Robinson didn't come back, I would still be down on Gibson right now. And this just makes things worse.
Yeah, agreed. Number 3, Adam Thielen.
Thielen?
Yeah,
Thielen? Okay.
I think it's Thielen, but he's
like
taking a trip to Thielen's basement. It's like a old school.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just aged myself with that. Does anybody know what a mall is anymore? I went to a mall the other day.
People know what a mall is. It's just not what it used to be.
But like, I went to a mall the other day, and there was like, usually like on, Friday nights, there's like a bunch of teenagers in the mall. At least when I was a kid, that was the case. And there was like one group. Teenagers,
Yeah.
just one little tiny 4-person group. Like, do people hang out in malls anymore?
They do, but it's not nearly like what it was,
Anyways,
15 years ago.
I'm aging myself.
Yeah.
Just like Adam Thielen, 32 years old. But no, Thielen actually the last 2 weeks against Detroit, New Orleans has been pretty good. He had 8 targets, 9 targets. He caught a touchdown. He's had 18 and 15 fantasy points in the consecutive weeks. Obviously, there's going to be good weeks for Thielen. The big thing with Thielen is what we've seen so far this season is matchup dependence.
Yes.
Green Bay, Philly, 6-9. Detroit, New Orleans, 18-15. He has Chicago this week. I don't think that has anything to do with them being good. I think that has everything to do with the fact that Chicago throws it 14 times a game and runs it 6 million. Clock control football. But he has, Chicago, Miami, and then this back half of the schedule really, really tough. He's also got a bye week coming up. So it's like, I don't see how many more games that Thielen can have success in. He's also on the older side, so with that comes, injuries at certain points in the season. And I think there's other guys in the passing attack for the Vikings that could start taking over some of that target share. Guys like Irv Smith, KJ Osborne, and we could see Adam Thielen kind of take a little bit more of a backseat as the season goes along. But I don't see a massive amount of upside for Adam Thielen at this point in his career. So I would just sell him high on these games. I don't, however, believe that Adam Thielen sucks or he's going to be bad rest of the season. I just don't like him. I don't think he's that great. So if you're into Adam Thielen, then all the power to you. But I will take these 18 and 15 points and sell that hard.
I mean, yeah, people will see the name and they'll go crazy. I think he was traded in our league for pretty good value. And, Thielen, I'm with you. I think rest of season, he's really not going to be bad. Like, he's going to have good weeks, especially weeks where Jefferson gets double teamed. Thielen will be involved. But the issue is that he's not going to be the player that some people think he is rest of season. And I think it is good to sell him at a point where you can get pretty good value for him. I think in our league, he's traded for Miles Sanders. I've seen other leagues where there's been pretty good packages for him. So, or you could include him in a package. It's probably the better way of trading him. And as you said, he's 32 in year 10 now, or year 9. For a wide receiver, you're kind of going to start to see him go downhill at this point. Yeah. And he has played good this year, but it hasn't been anywhere where, he's been elite. Jefferson is the clear number 1 there. Obviously, and then there's going to be weeks where Dalvin Cook starts getting touchdowns. There's going to be random weeks where KJ Osborne has an 18, 20-point fantasy week like he did in week 3. And then Irv Smith will be involved as well. So, yeah, Thielen's kind of, he's fine. He is what he is. Could be a weekly flex, but that's about all you're getting with Thielen.
Right. Yeah, and I think, there's certain players that, because, I was telling Rick, you're fighting over a trade, and I was telling Rick before, I think it was just yesterday, that, every player has some form of value. And I think there's a place for Adam Thielen. I'm not the type of player that wants, fantasy football player that wants, these old guys on my team. It kind of scares me a little bit. Because I feel like NFL teams are willing to move on, right?
Yeah.
Julio Jones' last good year was 2 years ago, but people are still holding on for dear life with Julio. And it's like Thielen's one of those guys that has just, at this point in his career, he's just not that guy anymore, and people have that anticipation. But the big thing for me is I like to have guys that have promise. You know what I mean? So, if a guy has, an 18 and a 15-point week and they're 23, 24 years old, I feel way better about that. Someone in our home league picked up Mac Hollins, and I was like, the dude is 29. He's literally playing the Hunter Renfrow role right now. What is your expectation of Mac Hollins? All of a sudden he breaks out at 29? It just doesn't happen like that. So, like Adam Thielen, he's been good in his career. Like he has a role in fantasy football. And he is a great flex play on a week-to-week basis, but I'm just more of a guy that wants to, like, if you can take Adam Thielen and trade him for a guy at similar value who's significantly younger and has a chance at breakout, then I would do that, as opposed to holding Thielen all season just to get the 10 points from him. Or
I think there are some leagues where you could trade Thielen for like a Chris Olave or Drake, maybe not Drake London, depending on what league you're in, but one of those rookies that could really break out, or even second-year guys that haven't done too much yet that could still break out. I would do that, or look for the running back position, get one of those cheap but quality running backs. But yeah, Thielen, he is what he is,
Yeah. Okay. There are your buys and sells: Dalvin Cook, George Pickens, J.K. Dobbins, James Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Adam Thielen. Any other thoughts from you, Rick?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Good luck this weekend trying to get these guys. And this obviously goes into next weekend unless somebody gets hurt. So enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your football. Hope you win. See you later, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.